born on the internet. Anonymous has no official members and no hierarchy.
We are Legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us. We are not fucking playing. We are anonymous. We are anonymous. We are you. We are the future. We are your hopes. We are your dreams. We are the anti-system. We are the resistance. We are the revolution. There is no type of anonymous, hence the name. We are Muslims, Christians, Jews, Buddhists, Hindus, agnostics, atheists. We are all. We are one. We are divided by none. This is a message to the masses. The masses of slaves suffering under the brutal dictatorship of the satanic anchor Illuminati. Your time has come. Rise up. Be free. Do not give in. Do not give up. We are with you. We are you. The evil powers who wish to destroy humanity and enslave us like an animal farm. We say no. We say never. We say freedom. We are human beings. We wish to be free. We will be free. Let each nation live how they will. Let the people choose their own rulers who are fair, just, and rule by the people. We are at a turning point. We are at a great crisis in the world. The Illuminati want to start World War III. We must not let that happen. We must stand up now and defeat them once and for all. We have the power to do so. Do not give in. Do not believe the lies anymore. We are anonymous. We are you. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.
Begin transmission. This is a message from the anonymous charity also known as The Collective. Today's broadcast date is March 13th, 2019. We bring you a series that will be rolled out over 45 broadcasts. This will be an extra broadcast to our usual 17:45 Pacific Time transmissions. These will come to you at 5:45 Pacific Time. Please see our community tab for daily posts and comms as well as our official Twitter account, which is at The Collective Q. Let's start. The Bloodlines of the Elite and the History of the Illuminati Part 1. The following is an understandable, detailed, and summarized timeline of events and people which have been proven scientifically, archaeologically, genetically and historically. It is time you all wake up and see the world for what it truly is. Please know this was not written in order to attack any personal beliefs, but rather to let you know what is really going on. You have been lied to. We, the anonymous charity, are no writers, merely researchers. You must open your mind and free yourself from the brainwashing control they have put you under, if you are to continue this. You must realize that what you know is simply not true, and these broadcasts and the evidence brought forth here will challenge and discredit most, if not everything that you believe. It will hurt your feelings. You will want to be defensive and not try to listen to the content. It will make you angry. You will start to understand and your eyes will begin to open. It will make you act. You will know the truth and you will understand that freedom is only obtained when we speak the truth. Your life is about to change. Welcome to the Collective HQ. Let's begin with the very structure of the group of people we will discuss. The structure beings with DNA, the blood. What brings them all and in the darkness binds them? Why do they fund and support human trafficking on a global scale? Why do the elites give up everything for their drug of choice, adrenochrome? Even the good book it says that the life is in the blood. It has been proven that a specific blood antigen runs through the inbred 13 families, led by the Rothschilds and Rockefellers, who rule our world. There are 8 main families with the rest barely known to the public. Their blood type is Rh negative. It is metal-based, mainly copper. They have infected almost all of us with the Rh protein. There are many different forms of this. We will only look at the one strand that runs in this bloodline. While almost everyone has Rh protein in their DNA, the mutation in the negative blood type creates a cannibalistic gene which literally eats the DNA of the offspring created with any other type of blood. Note that every living creature known to man can breed with any one of their species. Hemolytic disease, which it is called, is the allergic reaction that occurs when an Rh negative mother is carrying a Rh positive child. Her negative antigens produces antibodies to destroy the positive antigen. The same way it would a virus, thereby destroying the offspring. This same problem occurs in mules, hybrid of a horse and donkey, which is why no mules or other hybrids we have produced ever procreate. Nowhere in true nature does this occur. This fact alone points to the crossbreeding between 2 similar but genetically different species. Hemolytic disease would not occur in humans if we were all of the same species. This could be dubbed vampire-like, could it not? Don't be turned off by terms. Understand the meanings of them. The world is not what you have been told. This blood is high in metals and other foreign structures that simply do not exist naturally in pure human DNA. Interesting to note an old saying, iron and blood do not mix. Or Eisen and blood, as Otto von Bismarck stated in 1862. Now we see all sorts of metals planted in our air called chemtrails that are known to alter DNA, killing off those with certain strands of the Rh. Yes, it is targeted. Planned. Conspiracy. Not only this fascinating mutation but also the DNA ladder that we traditionally see in pictures is doubled and fit together in a way that creates what are called rhesus boxes. Rhesus being the name of Rh. Another intriguing detail, the chemical structure of the DNA is the shape of a 6-pointed star, a hexagram. This makes the cells much larger and more bulky, also making it difficult for them to move as normal cell structures do, further causing issues with this breed. The other formation it takes is a 5-pointed pentagram style. This is a very, very, very simplified breakdown just so you understand the key parts of the blood and the interesting coincidences. As we go along you will see the importance of it. There is so much more tied to this blood type. If you want to read a bit more on this, please go to the last section of part 1, titled Blood, and you can read more of the details or find the genetic research documentation as we did. To give just a few more seconds to this topic before we move on, it is imperative for the women with this blood type to be perfectly matched with men of a compatible blood type in order to have maximum chances of having offspring that will survive through birth, and even further selections must be made in order to have a functioning, lasting product after birth, as most will be handicapped in some severe way. Due to this, the purity of the blood is paramount. It must be pure. Even with precautions, the risk is high for death at, during, before and shortly after birth, typically until the 8th or 9th year. Now, what does this have to do with the topic at hand? Everything, as a matter of fact. Have you never noticed that the 13 families that rule the world today have always inbred? Do you wonder why they own all major hospitals, churches, schools, mental health centers, cemeteries and laboratories? Not to mention a multitude of secret places we will never know about, like the exposed Dull Space and Area 51. Oh yes, and all mainstream media and some alternative sellouts. We traced this blood type back to a few women from the Ashkenazi Khazar lineage. This line comes from the Germanic, Slavic and Roman areas. The ancient tribe of women who resided in this area were called Kedarites. Kedarite. You will notice as we go on, when different spellings are found I will put them in parentheses for you to see. The Kedar were strong, warrior women who are notably documented around 10th century BC, year 1000 BC. We are going to be using BC and AD for this document as there is no difference between BC and BC etc. The tribe is named after Kedar, daughter of Ishmael. Kedar means darkness, a reference to their belief in the occult. Kedar's father, Ishmael, and his mother were banished from his father's land because his mother had different blood. She carried the gene and it was passed through Ishmael to his daughter Kedar. Her bloodline is the bloodline we speak of, as in real life. They will remain in the shadows for now, but we will draw them out from time to time as we go along. Funny how we see so many stories about warrior women, Xena warrior princess, and the ever exotic Amazonian women. I'm sure you can think of your own as well. Tales and legends come from somewhere. To find truth you must go back to the origin of it. Let's take a look at the men for a moment, since they are the ones we always see. This series of broadcasts will not be getting into personal opinions of any topic. The facts stated here are for no other purpose than making note of key points of the bloodline's beliefs, their mindset, and why they do what they do. How they think and act. The only purpose for the mention of their beliefs at all is simply because they are intricately woven in their reasoning, actions, and history. People's beliefs make them who they are, and I will disclose all information found out about these people here, comfortable or not. Truth is not always pretty or fun. There are many proofs, including names of people documented in all sacred, archaeological, and historical texts. All correlating versions of names used between these works will be included and mentioned as much as possible. Names are changed constantly by the families, and the past researchers who have looked into the different names have not been able to tie them together, as we do here. Thanks to the internet and the amount of information we can see, we are able to translate names, words, and make the connections that could not be seen before. Archaeologists, genealogists, and historians from different countries and studies, languages, backgrounds have never connected the dots. Most people stay in a narrow rut in their thinking, which disables them from looking further and seeing the big picture, which leads to full truth. As far as the changing names, it's just like how we use multiple spellings and definitions for most words, such as there. This is how it is with the names. The deception is enough to blind the masses. We have all heard the stories of Abraham, Noah, the tribes of Israel. These names did belong to real, living people in history at one time. The 13 families are very proud of the fact that they can trace their line back to Cain, although they do not make this information public. That is, simply put, all we aim to do here. However, you will find ... it ended up unraveling much more than we dreamed. We have added a few of the juicy details for your enjoyment. Since most lineage is boring and no one has the mental capacity to focus more than a few minutes at a time, we are only going to hit on the key people who played a large role in the formation of our world today, in hopes it will help to keep your focus here until the end of the letter. If we go to the family's claimed beginnings, Cain, we can instantly see it has been proven he had bad blood. He was the first noted murderer. He was born around 4004 BC, 40th century BC, and was twin to a sister, Aclea. His brother, Abel, was murdered by him when they were teenagers, and Cain married and had children with Abel's twin, Luluah. Cain and his descendants were exiled and the bloodline was separated. Jumping forward, we will not spend time on details easy to find, as time is precious. In the lineage it is easy to find Abraham, another big name in the families, who can be traced back to Cain through Moses. We will not list this here. Many things we will leave for you to find for yourself. One woman, called Hagar, related to Cain, had Abraham's firstborn son, named Ishmael, born 1860 BC. Both were outcast because of jealousy and the excuse that she had bad blood. They eventually settled in the wilderness of Paran, now Palestine, where Ishmael married a girl from his mother's homeland of Egypt. More on them later. One of Abraham's many grandsons was Jacob. Jacob, born 1791 BC, was a twin. You will see twins pop up frequently. He had 12 sons which, once their families were too large, several thousand, to be contained in the family hut, if you will, they went out to their own areas, around the Middle East, Mediterranean and down towards Africa. That is why some descendants of Jacob's son Naphtali, and the rest, are found in these locations through history. This area was called Canaan. The land of Canaan, not to be confused with the man we will discuss next. This is the same area Israel is attempting to take over currently. The bloodline wishes to reclaim its birthright. To mention Naphtali's family for a moment, one of the first locations we see the tribe is Arcadia, aka Greece. We can see their language written in Akkadian archaeology, called Akkadian. Cuneiform, a written language or dashes and dots, it is seen today in an app for Twitter. Documents note their shepherding skills, wealth, beauty, piety and merchant status, which they kept through history. Reminder, if you don't know what a word really means, look it up. I can guarantee that the typical reader of this will not know the true definitions of most of the descriptive words and terms used here. Governments around the world have changed the definitions of words and it is important to understand exactly what they mean. Since the 40s, American schools terms and those used by the government have been distorted and morphed into meaning things they simply do not truly mean. Please look up definitions before we continue with the Naphtali tribe. Around this time, we come across a few notable members of the tribe. The elite families are proud to claim ancestry to Nimrod, a Babylonian, Akkadian, king. Described as a giant or Nephilim, a murderous tyrant and descendant of Cain. Nimrod, great-great-grandson of Noah and son of Cush, lived about 2268 to 1868 BC. He built not only Babylon, later called Akkad or Arcadia, but also Uruk, Nineveh, and Calah. We now call his land Assyria. Nimrod's uncle, Canaan, had sons who also carried the bloodline. Remember, these families, tribes were tens of thousands of relatives and covered much of the land at that time. Canaan's sons were Zidon, Heth, Amori, Girgashi, Hivi, Arki, Sin-e, Arodi, Zimodi, and Chamath. Sargon of Akkad, Akkadian. Arukinu, meaning the true king or the king is legitimate, is documented as a Semitic Akkadian emperor and was famous for his takeover of the Sumerian area in the 23rd and 22nd centuries BC, killing the Kish king and usurping his throne before embarking on the quest to conquer Mesopotamia. He is the first documented king we see from Naphtali family since they typically had their Kedar wives named queen. They believe women are superior as they carry the blood. They make their gods in female forms. Now, we have come quite a long ways in years. While we have been talking, the sons of Jacob have had many generations and formed their own clans. They have traveled all over the place from Israel to Asia to Rome. Let us go back for a moment and take a look at them in more detail. The 12 brothers' families, clans, tribes, are in their fathers, Jacob's land of Canaan, where they have separated to different areas given to them within Canaan. There is a bit of confusion through our history books today, so we will clear that up here. Remember who controls what you know. These families. They don't want you to know the truth, so they will keep it from you, and easily can. The popular tribe of Dan included the relatives descended from Dan, Naphtali, and Asher, 3 of the sons of Jacob. The three families, tribes, were grouped together according to how the sons of Jacob had camped around their family temple, when there were only the sons and immediate families. These three sons camped facing north, the direction their descendants traveled later on. These families grew as neighbors and eventually formed the collective called the tribe of Dan, as Dan was the largest family of the three by over 5,000 relatives. Talk about having a family barbecue with that crowd. A bit about Dan and Naphtali themselves. They were twins, born in 1703 BC, of a woman who had different DNA from their father, his wives, and their stepbrothers. They were white, light-haired with light eye color, and they were unnaturally large and strong. Now, calm down. Stay focused here. What is written here will go against the majority of readers' beliefs and views. However, if your views and beliefs are based on what some other person told you and brought you up in and indoctrinated you with, they are not yours. Naphtali, like his mother, was deep into the occult and very aggressive. Dan was not, and in fact was commanded, when he received his inheritance, to be a judge, watcher over Naphtali, to keep him in check, typical big brother stuff. His family adopted the symbol of the scales of justice and can be followed through history with this, as well as the symbol of the horned viper. Unlike the snake or serpent symbols used to distort, the horned viper, which was the same word used for scorpion in that time, was our equivalent to a fox, quick, wise, cunning, camouflaged, dealing swift judgment on any who passed too close without bias. The mutant DNA their mother, Bilhah, had is only passed through the women and only forms in certain of their offspring. Dan was white-skinned, light-haired and light-eyed, tall and strong like his twin, but not abnormally large, gigantic, or disfigured or corrupted with a rage and restlessness. This race has been called Caucasus, Elohim, Sumerians, and the Elder Race, aka Aryan. Needless to say, Dan and Naphtali were outcasts in their darker-toned family, as was Asher because he was born out of marriage, by a different woman. This made the three brothers very close. They had the common bond of being outcasts and offspring of different women. As they grew, their families became even closer, and finally, as tensions grew between the 12 tribes, the three decided to leave Canaan and sail around in search of their own land. Thus, the first pirates and Vikings were born. The three tribes became deeply involved in trade, gold, produce, and opium. These things have always been and will always be controlled by the bloodline. These are their sources for constant income. We can see the Vikings, Dans, adopted the Viper's appearance as their ship's structure, making it as easy to glide across the water as the snake glides across sand, silent and quick. Pirate, Naphtali, ships, clearly meant to carry goods, slaves, fur, soldiers, and especially heavy weapons like cannons. This type of ship is made to be in battle, and they have always been a war-loving people. That is one major way to follow the bloodline. Simply look at the wars and revolutions around the world and you will find them. Or of course, follow the money. This makes it easy to see the difference in the tribes and their histories. Side note, ancient Hebrew, Greek and Sanskrit texts define Elohim as gods, from God, of God, child of God, etc. Most religions have purposely misinterpreted this as meaning the Christian God. There are endless examples of this redefining of terms upon translation of the documents to English and other languages. Again, don't blind yourself by jumping to an assumption of what a term means, unless you have looked it up yourself through multiple different sources. You do not know the definition and should not use the term. That point must be clear. It cannot be stressed enough. You must unlearn what you have learned. As we have been told, in order to taste my cup of water you must first empty your cup. Drop all your preconceived and fixed ideas and be neutral. Do you know why this cup is useful? Because it is empty. To get a time frame again, about 900 BC King David had come to reign, just as the three families called the tribe of Dan began traveling around. After David, his Kedar-blooded son Solomon also married a Kedar woman and daughter of the Pharaoh, and began worshipping Ashtoreth like her. Ashtoreth aka Star, Sun, also known as Astarte, Shi'an, Kaiwan, Remphan, Ra, El and Saturn, derived from Satan. Solomon built altars using the symbol of the star we here referred to as the Star of David, more correctly the Star of Judah or the Judan, people of Judah, Jew. Both David and Solomon are described as having red hair, white skin and a talent for music and taming beasts, and love of wine, besides David's battles with giants, or Nephilim whom he defeated. The tribe of Naphtali was deep into astrology and were intimate with the tribe of Kedar because of Bilhah's blood. David's son Solomon was born of a woman descended from Bilhah's tribe. Can you see it? That's right. The tribe of Kedar. So the two tribes who have made up the elite bloodlines are the Kedars and Naphthalis. The star we see and are told is the Star of David has nothing to do with the House of David but rather the pagan pentagram for sun worship, star, Saturn worship, of David's infected son, Solomon. People can always change, which is something to keep in mind. Solomon did have a change of heart by the end of his life. We see this star, sun, halo, covering history, art and statues, marking the trail of the Jesuit, Zionist, Freemason, Satanic, anti-Catholic popes and rulers even today. This halo or sun represents illumination. Lucifer. Everything is inverted, opposite. This elite group hides behind the facade and twisted definition of Jew, a derogatory term they created for those from Judah, their hated enemies, their brothers from another mother. The people they have murdered relentlessly for centuries and the very people they claim to be. The perfect cover. Keep your enemies closer. The Elite 13 control the world and they think they control you. Sadly, so do you, and so many don't even care. Remember this. They control everything and own nothing. Today we see the families controlling governments, and all powers on earth. Do you know what they own? Their car? Their jets and planes? No. They own nothing. Why do you think it matters so little to them if taxes are higher for the upper class in America? They wouldn't be taxed. They starve people in Africa and Venezuela. They don't care because they do not starve. They do not care for you. They simply hold the cards, money, power, of control. They control you to keep you at arm's length, to keep you from opening your mind and freeing your potential. They keep you brainwashed and deceived in every facet of life. They think you are a pestilence that must be destroyed. You must understand that. They think you are a pestilence that must be destroyed. But, never forget this, you are priceless. The knowledge, the power you can have terrifies them. That is the one thing they can never control. Your ideas. You. I hope this letter helps you realize this. To learn more about the tax situations, look into trusts, contractual companies, blind trust, family trust. The loopholes that are there are for the elite. Back to the three families of the tribe of Dan, Asher, Dan, and Naphtali. They eventually separated. However, historians and religious documents keep them under the same title, even after the clear split, to keep us all oblivious to the truth. This is where one major confusion begins. If you follow historical documents closely, you can identify the differences and see clearly which tribes went where.